If you struggle with concealing your dark circles and under eye hollows, whether you've always had them or you've acquired them with age, you're not alone. There are so many concealer tutorials online and on social media that work beautifully for other people. They just don't work the same for those of us with sunken under eyes and dark circles. We can still look a bit tired and shadowy after. We have to do things a little bit differently. I did a similar, fairly popular video on this a couple of years ago that helped a lot of people. But I've been doing some things a bit differently on a daily basis that have been working for me really well. So I thought it was time for an update. I'll have the other video linked for you up in the corner and down below in my description box so you can check it out after this video too. I think it's always helpful to show different methods because one may work better for you than the other. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. Let me zoom you in and we can get started. First off, I'm inserting some everyday natural lighting clips so you can get a better picture of what my dark circles look like on an everyday basis, because these lights that I film under that allow you to see what I'm doing without any obstruction from dark shadows that wouldn't allow you to see much of anything are more brightening and flattering to my dark circles. And I just think it's fair for you to see what they look like a little bit more accurately, or as accurately as I can. During my skincare routine, I apply an eye cream and I always let it sink in at least 5 to 10 minutes before I sit down to start my makeup. It's usually longer than that. I usually do some other things while it's absorbing. I keep a list of my personal favorite daytime and nighttime eye creams and eye creams I recommend for various skin types over on my Shop My Shelf. I'll have that link for you down in my description box. I have all types of favorite lists over there. This next step is optional, but if you have dry or mature under eyes like I do at age 50, one of the first things I do when I sit down at my makeup table to do my makeup, because usually some time has passed, is swipe on an eye balm type of product to give my eyes a hydration boost and to prep my under eyes for makeup. It kind of also acts as a makeup primer. This is my favorite. I've talked about this so many times on my channel. This is the Tula 24/7 Power Swipe. There are also beneficial ingredients in here. I know there's the whole thing using Aquaphor stick under your eyes. I did a video on that. It's not really beneficial for your under eyes. This is. So I just swipe it from my inner corner out to the crow's feet area, and I just tap and blend out the edges softly, and you can see that nice sheen under my eyes. And you may or may not have noticed that I already applied foundation before I started my corrector step. It doesn't matter if you apply corrector before or after foundation. What matters is that when you're blending your foundation, you don't blend it up into this under eye area. You stop just under it. The less layers we have under our eyes, the better. Sometimes I apply foundation before corrector. Sometimes I apply my corrector before foundation. It doesn't matter. It just depends on my mood. But I always apply my foundation before concealer. Concealer always goes on after my foundation, unless it's powder foundation. That's a whole other thing. But if it's a liquid foundation, concealer goes on after. After you've prepped your under eye area, the next crucial step you do not want to skip is applying a thin layer of color corrector first. Correctors neutralize and counterbalance the tones of your discoloration before you conceal. This allows you to use less concealer so everything looks more natural and seamless at the end. Without this step, your concealer can have kind of a gray cast peeking through it because those tones are coming through your concealer. Now, typically, if your under eye circles or your discoloration has a blue tone to it, you want to use a peachy or an orange toned corrector. And if your discoloration has a purple tone to it, you want to use yellow tones. There are always exceptions to that though. You sort of have to experiment to see what's more flattering for you. My tone has a nice bruise color to it. It's purple with a little bit of blue. You would think yellow would work really well for me, but it just makes me look sick when I use a yellow toned corrector. So I always go with peachy. That just flatters me best. Now, this is my favorite, most used corrector. If you are a subscriber here, you have heard me talk about this numerous times. I have gone through so many tubes. Bobbi Brown Bisque corrector has been it for me for a really long time now. There are plenty of other shades to choose from and other shades of bisque to choose from too. Bobbi Brown also has a corrector in pot form that is more drying in my opinion. This one is creamy, lightweight, hydrating. It blends out easily and works well under concealer, even alone. You can use whatever products you like. I do have high-end and drugstore favorites in my link down below just to give you some options if you're on the hunt. Now with this particular corrector, I prefer to dip my finger into it and then blend it under my eye versus taking the stick and applying it directly. That could just be me. I just like doing it that way. And you want to correct only where your discoloration is. It's not the same as concealer where you blend it out further. In my previous video, I was pretty precise and I used a brush, but on a day-to-day basis, I just use my finger. It's quicker and it works for me just as well. So I tap a little bit in my inner corner where I have quite a bit of darkness, and I have some redness at the outer corner of my eye, so I tap a bit there. And for the initial placement under my eye, I place it at the darkest part of my under eye hollow at the perimeter, and I just start blending it until my areas of discoloration look a bit better. This corrector does a great job of looking like my skin. So you're not looking for perfect concealing here. You're just looking to cancel out those discolored undertones under your eye, which is exactly what it did here. My hollow goes down further under this eye and my dark circle is worse under this eye. So I typically need a little bit more, but it's still a very thin layer and it looks very seamless. So that is a big improvement, and that's what I'm looking for from a corrector, is an improvement. You can use any type of concealer you personally enjoy, any type of coverage, finish, any price point. I have some concealers I have recommended that I love and think are great for all skin types, coverage levels, price points, in a favorites list linked down below if you're looking for a great concealer. I am working on a top favorites list video. It's coming. It's just taking me a while. Now, on a day-to-day basis, I prefer a medium buildable to medium full coverage, or just a straight medium full coverage concealer. I just find that that works really well for my dark circles with under eye hollows. You can use whatever you want to use, but because I've been using this so much on a daily basis and it's so great for mature aging skin, this is what I'm using for this video, along with another one here in a minute. We're going to combine two concealers. So I'm starting with the Sarah Creel concealer in a shade that's about a half a shade lighter than my skin tone. So I'm placing it basically in the same areas that I placed the corrector earlier, the outer corner, inner corner, and at the bottom of my under eye hollow. So the other reason why I wanted to demonstrate with this concealer or a concealer like this is because if I just blend this out right now, it will give me straight medium coverage, and I want closer to medium full coverage. This is the type of concealer that will thicken and give me more coverage if I just let it sit a minute. So that is what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna let it sit. Okay, it's been a little bit longer for me than it has you. I just sped it up on video. My mouth isn't going to match what I'm saying because I was kind of all over the place as I was applying it. So you can blend your concealer out with a brush, a sponge, or a finger. Some blend better with certain tools than others. Always play around with them to see what works best. Starting at the bottom of my hollow, I'm using the warmth of my finger here to blend it out and up and blending each section into one another. I'm blending all of those areas around my eye where I had concealer except the area right under my tear duct, that dark area. I'm sort of wanting to detract from that darkness first and use as little product there as possible. Since light projects and moves forward and dark recedes, I want to blend the remainder of the product I've used towards that inner corner darkness under my eye. And unlike in my previous video where I stopped the blend right at the under eye hollow perimeter, I do continue the blend in towards my nose area a little bit. I find if I stop at the perimeter of my under eye hollow, the hollow is more pronounced. I need to seamlessly blend the two together. This under eye has just the corrector. This has the corrector and one layer of under eye concealer. If you are happy here, stop. This is where people without under eye hollows, without sunken areas call me out in videos because they don't understand why I would want to add just a touch bit more concealer. If you don't have sunken areas, you don't get it, right? If you find you still have some more shadowy areas that are peeking through, which happens, it just does, you can take a teeny tiny amount of the same concealer or a more brightening concealer, a concealer that's maybe a half a shade lighter, and place the tiniest little dot onto that spot. I like to very lightly blend it up into that area. You can use a finger or you can use a very tiny brush if you want to be super precise. Because you're using such a small amount of product on skin-like layers, you're not getting cakiness or heaviness, and it's creating the illusion of a lift. So it helps that hollowness appear less sunken and more even with the skin surrounding it. Now again, in my last video, I was very careful not to cross the ridge of my under eye hollow and go over into the raised area, but I find that slightly blending into that area helps everything look more natural and seamless. If you prefer, you can apply concealer to the back of your hand and work it into the brush and then apply it under your eyes. I know some people really like to apply their concealer this way. I find if my under eyes are particularly dry, which they often are, this can emphasize dryness. So if that happens, I usually tap things out with my finger, sometimes applying another dot of concealer with my finger after tapping it out remedies everything. That's just an extra tip for you if that happens to you. The concealer I use for that, by the way, is Tower 28 in shade DTLA. This is another favorite concealer of mine that I've been using for a long time and have gone through numerous tubes of. Sometimes mix the two of these together. I think I said this was shade 2 in Sarah Creel. I can't remember. If not, that is the shade I wear in this. Now these types of hydrating creamy concealers are absolutely beautiful for dry, mature under eyes, but they are shiny. So light reflects off of them and can show every ridge and valley you have under your eyes that you just worked so hard to correct and conceal. It's the same with our face. When you wear a really dewy, radiant foundation, it magnifies pores, texture, lines, and wrinkles. They look really great on young, smooth skin though. It's the same principle with paint. A semi-matte finish will hide imperfections while a glossy finish shows every imperfection. Now because of that, and because I always crease right under my lash line, it's my anatomy, no matter what creaseless concealer I use, I always very lightly set my under eyes with a very, very sheer, finely milled translucent powder, one that's made for the under eyes that doesn't look powdery. I cannot emphasize enough that all powders are not created equally. This is my go-to. This is Pat McGrath Under Eye Setting Powder. It's created specifically for the under eye area. I've had so many viewers thank me for turning them onto this. I either use the light shade, which looks white, but under the eye, it's a brightening translucent shade, or I use this pink shade, which is also brightening. The technique is essential too. You want to first press out any creases that have formed from just making expressions or doing other things. You don't want to lock those in. Lightly swirl your brush into the powder, tap off any excess, and softly tap the powder under your eyes. I find kind of rolling the brush works for me. Next, I dip the corner of a puff or a damp sponge if I use that to apply my foundation that day into a small amount of the powder and gently press that into my crease prone areas and the remainder of what's left on the sponge or the puff into the rest of my under eye area to really fuse the powder into my skin. It still looks like smooth, natural skin without the reflective texture it had before. And once my makeup is set with the right setting powder and finished, the texture looks a bit softer. I'm sure someone will come in my comment section and tell me otherwise, but this is what we have. Our anatomy can be challenging. It is what it is, but hopefully these tips and techniques help you out with your under eye struggles in some way. If you found this video helpful, I would love it if you would give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who could possibly benefit from it. Subscribe if you're not already. I would love to have you here regularly with me. I have more videos on concealer and under eyes. If you want to check those out, they're here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.